The Ukraine Mission Ministry here at St. Paul is such an important ministry in the lives of so many people. Obviously, it's an important ministry in the lives of the children in the orphanages that we work with. There are 4 different orphanages that we come in contact with, that we lead ministry in throughout the year, that we visit when we're over there on our twice-yearly trip. So obviously, this church's ministry sows the love of God into the lives of those children. Beyond that, though, this ministry sows the love of God into the lives of the people that we meet and come across in Ukraine. All of the teachers in the orphanages, all of the orphanage directors, every person that we meet along the way, we feel that that's an opportunity that God is giving us to just shine His light. So it's more than just an orphan ministry. It's just a ministry about spreading the love around the world, spreading the gospel around the world. Even though we might not be preaching to do it, we're doing it in every other way. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do some preaching and some teaching, but we are sharing His love with our actions and with the provision that we're making, and just the shock that it is to some of the people that people from an American city would come all of that way to this town, Kryvyi Rog, Ukraine, to work with their children. That is an impactful, powerful thing for somebody that doesn't really know who God is. Well, why do you do it? Because it is a response of love on our part for God. It's how we respond to God's love. That's our love flowing out. This is an important ministry for the people of this church. For the church, we help broaden the lives of the people here in the church. We have extended the families of the people here at this church by introducing them to children in the orphanages there. There are many families that have pictures of the children in the orphanages hanging on the refrigerators or hanging on their dresser mirrors at home, and they know those children's names, and they pray for those children daily as if they're a part of their own family. I want to say that that's very important for the children in Ukraine to know, that they have a family here at St. Paul. We become the mothers and the fathers for these children. Very important to the children, we become the keeper of their stories. We are the ones who know their history, who know what's happened to them from the time they were infants to toddlers, going through elementary school, graduating from high school. We know some of them beyond into getting married and having children and families of their own. We know those stories. We're the keeper of those stories, and that's a very important role that God has entrusted this church with. That makes these children feel worthy, that there is somebody out there that cares, that knows them, and not just knows that they exist, but knows them, knows about the funny stories, knows that there's this one particular little child who is crazy about Spider-Man, and every time we can come across some kind of Spider-Man something, there are people in this church that'll bring me things to take to Bogdan to give him because he's the Spider-Man guy. And there's little girls who like particular color sweaters or jackets, and I have families that'll bring me, would you take this pink little jacket to Sasha? I know she likes pink and this should be her size now, because they've heard the stories about she loved the pink balloons and she's always going for the pink ribbons that we take over there. So we are the keeper of their stories. Now, this is so important in our own families at home. You know, when you gather together for the holidays, you sit around the table after dinner and you tell stories, and a lot of that's reminiscing about what happened. Do you remember when Johnny fell off the roof when he was up there acting like Superman? Or do you remember when little Mary fell down off of her skateboard and pretended to be hurt a lot? You know, these kind of stories, and then everybody laughs and laughs, and it's just the same things that you repeat over and over. Those children in the orphanages there, they don't have that except for St. Paul remembering those stories. And every time we go over there, anytime we take team members, when Matthew and I travel over there, they always want to just sit around and talk about those same stories. Tamichka, tell me, what was I doing when you first met me? Tell me the story again about what was said that was so funny when we were eating this meal together. Tamichka, do you remember what happened? And they just want us to go over and over and over those stories. This makes them feel like I said, worthy. It makes them feel whole. It makes them feel valued, and that makes them feel valued in God's eyes. Now, because we do continue to go back over and over again, we live out God's love in their lives. They see that there's consistency there, that they are not forgotten, that they are not forsaken, and that they have not been left as orphan children, that they have been adopted into the family of God. And that's through the many ways that God has used this church. Just the fact that they know someone out there remembers them and is keeping their stories and maybe telling their stories over when we're back home, it makes them feel valued. In doing this, in being that kind of mother-father presence, that family presence in the children's lives, we have established relationships on the ground with a group of volunteers that we call Compass. This is our ministry team in Ukraine, Compass. And the name Compass comes from the fact that, a compass points north. And we feel that this is our goal, our vision is to point it north, point it to the Lord. And so that's where the name came about. Periodically in the church, you'll see lists that'll go out about needs, particular needs that are in the orphanages at certain times. Some of those needs are specific to the children in the orphanages. We'll ask the directors, what do you need? What's going on that we can help you with? And they'll tell us things that they need. We ask our ministry partners, Compass, and again, these are volunteers that work for us over there. They're young people. Several of them do this. This is what they do all the time. They don't have a job otherwise. They are in the orphanages on our behalf, day in and day out, developing relationships on the ground with the children there, people that they can actually turn to at a moment's notice when they need help, that are representing St. Paul and our activities there. So you'll see on these lists things that our ministry team, that Compass might need. For instance, right now, as we're preparing for this next trip, there's a list of needs that Compass has. They need a camera. We need a camera for our group over there. Now, why do we need that camera? Well, I told you about us being the keeper of the children's stories. Well, St. Paul has become the illustrator of those stories, the illustrator of their lives. And we need a camera to help do this documentation for them. If it were not for this church, there are many children that would not have pictures of themselves when they were little, when they were toddlers, pictures of themselves when they got dressed up for their first day of school, pictures from when they graduated from high school, and just the documentation that we do of our own children's lives. We kind of take it for granted. We've all got cell phones, we're taking pictures constantly. Those children don't have that. Again, we're the constant in their life. We're the people who've been there from the beginning with them. And to have a camera is an important thing. They need that camera so that they can take pictures when we're not there, so that these children can have these mementos, just a history of their lives. So you'll see those lists come out. You'll see ministry needs, like for our Compass group. You'll also see needs that the directors give us and needs that the children give us. Many people wonder, and they'll ask me, well, what do you really need? Tammy, what do you really need? And that's a difficult question to answer, because it's very hard for me to prioritize one person's needs over the other there, because I love them all. I want us to be able to help all of them. And there's never a list that has an outlandish need on it. Everything that is given to us, it's a valid need. But yes, there's sometimes some life and death situations that we need help with. And this church has stepped in instantly when we've had to do things like that. We've performed life-saving surgery on children over there. We've repaired broken limbs. We've fixed crossed eyes. We've paid for open heart surgery. We've done many things like that. So yes, life-saving needs, and this church jumps up just like that. And I'm so grateful for that. But sometimes our lists say things like soccer balls. We need soccer balls. And people are like, well, that's not a life-saving kind of thing. Well, no, it's not. But it's something that the children need. It's recreation. It's fun for the children. And children want toys. This is Christmas time, right? Everybody's child or grandchild has a list that they've given to Santa Claus of the items that they want. They've watched television, they want all these toys. And we don't go, well, that's not really a life-saving need. I don't think we're gonna buy the plastic dinosaur or the Hatchimal animal, because, they just don't really need that. We may say that occasionally, but most of the time we don't for our own children. our children in Ukraine want some fun things too. They want some recreation, they want some love, they want some soccer games, they want some Uno games, some ice skates. I've been asked for a pair of ice skates before, or ping pong set. Just things where they can just have moments in their lives that they can forget that they're orphan children and just be a child. So that's a very important thing. I feel very blessed to have been given the opportunity to represent St. Paul in Ukraine with these orphan children. I feel that it was entirely the reason why my husband and I wound up here at this church, is that God was just making these connections way before we got here, and just plopped us down here and said, will you go? And we just jumped on it. And the fact that St. Paul has entrusted this ministry to Matthew and I and the others that have traveled over there, it's such a blessing and such an honor. We, God willing, will continue to do ministry in Ukraine for years to come. I appreciate your continued love, your continued support, your continued prayers. As the representative, I'm going to be the blessed one day when we're all gathered around the throne in heaven, to be able to introduce you, St. Paul family, to your Ukrainian children, to the family that you have sown into their lives for so many years there. I get to introduce y'all. And even though you may not know those children's names, you know their stories. And how cool is it going to be to sit there and look at Jesus smile so big when he says, St. Paul, thank you for being the keeper of the stories. Well done, good and faithful servant.